song is perfect song for kicking back with a cold beer or a drink. It really is. I had this hike today I took, which was a 5-mile hike, which went up through the woods, up to a big water tower that's near here. Every town has them in New England. It was like a great walk, man. I was sucking wind the whole time. I swear, when they exhume me and just say, let's just find somebody and see what his life was like, they're going to be like, holy, what exactly was he? Clearly, drug, alcohol, good lung capacity. Like, what was...
I don't know. They say walking keeps you alive.
I love it, man. I love it. It's
like,
the best
even,
in the world.
so if that's true, you're
Yes.
going to live a long time.
Not walking and possibly hot sauce. And if those do something, then I'm good to go. But
You're
we'll
going to
see.
live to 100 just to spite everybody.
Especially me. Like, oh, God. Imagine that I get to look like Jimmy Carter, but somehow I'll be like this fat. Okay. Where was I going to start here?
Gates?
I know that, but I thought there was something.
I feel like everybody wants to talk about Gates.
Yeah, they do. They do.
I will say one thing. He has an axe to grind with people in the DOJ.
All right. So let's take it there. My friends like Michael Graham is essentially getting a U-Haul and leaving the country. Thinking this is absolutely terrible and it's the worst thing in the world. Now, I would not have picked Gates. Whatsoever. He's kind of not a serious dude. He's a flamethrower. He's a marquee idol. There's no doubt. I've liked him. He is smarter than you give him credit for. And he's good in committees. But...
Remember the speakership debacle?
But, I mean, there's so many... Yeah, I remember the speakership debacle, and he killed, what's his name, for trying to get him... for investigating him on having sex with a 17-year-old or whatever. And I don't necessarily need my congressman talking about rich, corrupt, filthy globalists. I know it plays well, and it's viral, and he can raise money, etc. But your job should be pretty freaking boring if you're in Congress. You should be trying to directly implement needed legislation and allocate money to people with interest in your district. That is your job to do. But the moment you get to, and this is 40 years old now, since C-SPAN has been around, the moment these congressmen get to committees and have the floor for a minute, it's Hollywood time. And they do this thing, and like I just wish the Hollywood time thing is old. It's how Newt Gingrich got huge by just standing on C-SPAN, and taking all that.
I think they should definitely take the cameras out of Congress. It's like my least favorite thing.
I think politically, I agree with most everything that Gates is about. I think it's weird that he's got like this 27-year-old adopted son that's not really adopted. Fine, he's an eccentric kid. He comes from money. His wife is hot. That goes in his favor. She's legal. He has done a couple of things that I thought were pretty badass. I mean, he is pretty fearless. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. He is pretty fearless in the sense that he's not afraid to, and this is part of like the Trump bro effect. He's not afraid to say whatever the hell he really wants to. This is probably his most famous internet clip, and this is obviously bueno.
It's just pure ugliness, and I see that ugliness on the inside. I see it on the outside. You know, even in the horrible circumstance where an abortion may happen, it is nothing to celebrate, and it is nothing to cheer.
Mm-hmm. Is it safe to say that based off of your comments, you're suggesting that these women at these abortion rallies are ugly and overweight?
Yes.
What do you say to people who think that those comments are offensive?
Be offended.
That is, of course, awesome. So, no doubt about that. I don't think just strategically, I don't think it's great that we're starting off. I mean, I loved all the other picks. I like Tulsi in there. And then
I wasn't a huge Noam fan. Christy Noam.
No, I don't know why that is, other than she's got a great rack, and that is fine with me.
If that's why he picked her to be in charge of the border.
It could be.
Is the idea that, like, what's the guy's name? Tom Homan is just going to do the dirty work, and she's the cover because she's pretty?
Right, she's going to look pretty. That's it. there's something to be said for that, and it's fine. I kind of like the whole thing where she shot the dog seemingly needlessly, but
that was so weird. Why?
Why put it in the book? Imagine that. Like
to prove that you're tough. Like
right. And like,
I don't know what's weirder.
The dog was like you have the gun to the dog's barrel, the dog's head. He's like, right. But okay, it's fine. It's fine. I appreciate that. I'm sorry. I think there is something to having handsome men and beautiful women in leadership positions. I think that that's good modeling. I think that where it's so antithetical to Rachel Levine and Sam Brinton and all these freaking freaks that I'm for it.
Yeah, I mean, and it makes me not to like put down Trump's picks, because most of them I like actually, but the sort of wackiness of the picks makes me think that he is going to appoint RFK to something.
Yeah,
which I thought he was going to be more like in an advisory role, but I think he is going to get something. So far we have, just to recap for everybody, we have Kristi Noem as DHS, right?
Yeah, Homeland Security. Yep.
Homeland Security. We have Tulsi Gabbard as DNI. Director of National Intelligence. We have...
People are upset about that because she's a Russian spy, which if she is, I'm fine with that.
John Ratcliffe, who used to be DNI as
he's
CIA
a rock star,
director.
Ratcliffe. Tulsi sat across a table less than 3 feet from me with her beautifulness and talked to me for an interview, so I am good to go. I don't care if she's a Russian spy, sell all the stuff to Russia, have Putin use it to disable our missile defense system, and have them nuke the Eastern Seaboard and kill me, I'm fine with it.
Okay. And so Gates as Attorney General, which is the one that I think has really shocked people. Pete Hegseth from Fox News.
Well, right, because Gates is under investigation.
Well, and he's sort of first of all, that's a really big job for somebody who's quote unquote just a congressman. Like he is a lawyer, but he's doesn't have like a very extensive legal background. Typically people do like a little bit more law type stuff before they become AG. I think he picked him specifically because he knows Matt Gaetz is pissed off at the DOJ.
I agree with you, and his hair probably. Well, and because Gaetz is fearless.
My favorite so far is Pete Hegseth for Department of Defense.
Right.
He's a rock star.
At least 40% of that is sexual.
Well, I don't know what percent.
You'd only be human. I would be honored if, when we're romantic, that you think of him.
I think of you.
Don't. Stop it. You don't get to do that anymore. Please think of him. Okay? I'm going to be thinking of him. So
okay. All right. So, yeah, but the Matt Gaetz for Attorney General one is the one that has put people's hackles up. I mean, like, I don't know if he's going to get these people through the Senate. If he can't, is he going to do recess appointments? So I saw somebody say on Twitter, did you see this? That there's a possibility that he could have worked out a plan with Mike Johnson to basically, there's this thing in the Constitution where if one house of Congress asks to have a recess and they get turned down by the other one, the president can unilaterally make them both have a recess. So if Trump does that and then like force recesses them, then he would just make everything recess appointments and nothing would go through Congress.
Do wonders for the fears that he's an
autocrat.
Autocrat.
Well, so yeah, I mean, that'll be interesting if that...
Why start off, even before your term, why start off at war with your own party?
So, I don't know. But I guess we'll see, like, maybe he'll try and get them through the Senate through the normal process first. But I think, like, honestly, I think this time Trump's just raring to go. He feels, and I think he kind of learned his lesson with this from last time, because last time he didn't, like, get as much done as quickly. So it was like he felt kind of stymied by the way, you know, he couldn't get enough done, and then he lost Congress, and then he really couldn't get anything done. And then, so now I feel like he's saying, I have Congress for at most 2 years. Let's go. Like, we are ramming through everything right now. Like, the Elon and Vivek Department of Government Efficiency, which is
Doge, yep.
Ha
I
ha,
don't see that lasting
everybody.
very long. I mean, these guys have jobs, right?
It's also not a real
no.
government department. It's
gonna.
it's basically that announcement's like, by the way, I'm gonna have these guys start bothering everybody.
They're gonna
in the
advise
executive branch.
OMB, right? I think
Yeah,
that's it.
they're gonna work with the Office of Management and Budget. Yeah,
Right.
So, and they want to slash the size of federal government, which I think is great. Elon Musk has been retweeting Office Space memes with the like, what would you say you do here?
Yeah, the Bobs. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see how that goes. I think that, I mean, that's one thing that I would like to see happen is the size of the federal government slashed quite a bit.
And even if they look at that and they say, if you compare that to the cost of entitlements or compare that to the defense budget or the interest on whatever, even if they do that and try to be a buzzkill about it, it still feels good to shrink this bloat a little bit.
Oh, yeah. And even if it is, right, so here's my thing about anyone Trump appoints, is that the Biden administration appointed all ideological whack jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So now we get our turn. We get to appoint our ideological whack jobs.
Right.
So this is how it goes. Whoever is it. Oh my God, he nominated a Fox News host for Department of Defense. I can't believe. So Lloyd Austin, who, is consulting for defense contractors and had to get a special waiver because we're not actually supposed to have generals coming straight from the military into running the Department of Defense because we're supposed to have a civilian-led military and all this stuff. Like, we're supposed to have separation there. That's better. It's better to have, Austin, Raytheon lobbyists running the Department of Defense.
The guy who wore the windshield around his face with a mask under it while wearing a weird medal while inspecting troops during COVID.
Right. As far as I'm concerned, nobody can be worse than the people who executed the Afghanistan disaster.
Absolutely.
So you can't tell me. Nobody can possibly be worse as Attorney General than Merrick Garland. Because you know what? Matt Gaetz is not going to investigate me for going to a school board meeting.
And the Afghanistan thing was a campaign of F-ups.
Yeah.
It was amazing how bad. It was not just Abbey Gate where you blew up American troops, not just the fact you left billions of dollars of weapons there, and then decided to high five in the Situation Room while you droned to death a freaking innocent family, and then tell us it was a good kill. Mm-hmm. We believe it was a good kill, yes, indeed. And then nobody has to ever resign or because F you people.
So I do want to raise one thing about the recess appointments because people are saying Massey said yes on recess appointments. Clinton and Obama
Massey.
did it.
He'll get confirmed by the Senate. Then you recess. He's the Attorney General. Suck it up.
We don't need to. We recess. He's the Attorney General. Suck it up.
So I think the concern that people have, and this, so recess appointments are in the Constitution. They're a thing, obviously. The president's allowed to do them. They're constitutional. Clinton and Obama did them. As I said, Obama got this, the Supreme Court had to rule that Obama couldn't make some of his recess appointments because they ruled he did it over a 3-day weekend, and the Supreme Court was like, that does not count as a recess. Sorry. But I think, they screwed Trump kind of because they just didn't take a recess. They refused to. And so they wouldn't appoint some of his people. So I think what concerns people is this idea that Trump is going to try to force recess Congress on his own, make them go into a recess so that he can do recess appointments without them, which I don't know if that's a constitutional issue that's ever come up, and I think the Supreme Court might take issue with it. Mm-hmm. But since this in general has been a Supreme Court that is more skeptical of executive power, if anything, which the left hasn't liked that when it's come to EPA rules and stuff, but they've been more skeptical of Biden's executive power, and they've been more skeptical of left-wing executive power, of the power of the administrative state to do stuff, which the left wants the administrative state to have a lot of power, generally speaking. That's how they do all their stupid EPA rules. That's how Biden supposedly did student loans. That's how they did all the COVID vaccine mandate stuff, or attempted to anyway. And these courts have been, typically kind of skeptical of that. So they may take a dim view of Trump trying to force Congress to recess so that he can make his own recess appointments.
Right.
I'm not sure. I don't know that that's ever been tried, and I'm not like a legal scholar,
I wish
I don't.
that maybe we weren't effing around in this unknown area to begin with. By the way, another issue is Gates has resigned immediately. He's not a congressman anymore as of right now.
Yeah, and so this is the other issue. And even after he appointed just who were the first two he did? That guy, not Gates, but
The
a
chick
name
from New
Waltz and Elise Stefanik
Right.
to other roles. And the GOP has an incredibly slim majority in
Right.
the House of Representatives. Can you find maybe somebody who's not in Congress to fill something?
Exactly.
Like,
This is
really?
Mike Johnson just talked about this.
Matt and I were classmates. We came to Congress at the same time in the 115th Congress in January 2017. And alphabetically, we're seated right next to one another in Judiciary Committee. We served there together for 7 years. Some of y'all who cover Judiciary know those are long meetings. So I got to know Matt very well. Look, I'll say this. Everyone who served with him will tell you he's one of the most intelligent members of Congress. He's an accomplished attorney. He's very concerned about the lawfare that has been occurring in the Department of Justice under the Biden administration, and the fact that the American people have lost their faith in our institutions of justice because of everything that they've seen. He's a reformer in his mind and heart, and I think that he'll bring a lot to the table on that. I think out of deference to us, he issued his resignation letter effective immediately of Congress. That caught us by surprise a little bit, but I asked him what the reasoning was, and he said, well, you can't have too many absences. So under Florida state law, there's about an 8-week period to select and fill a vacant seat. And so by doing so today, that allows me, I've already placed a call to Governor DeSantis in Florida and said, let's start the clock. He's in Italy at the moment, and so we're going to talk first thing in the morning about this. And if we start the clock now, if you do the math, we may be able to fill that seat as early as January 3rd when we take the new oath of office for the new Congress. So Matt would have done us a great service by making that decision as he did.
Well, there you go. I feel better about it.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's good.
General
people
Milley
are...
was also AWOL for 2 months.
Austin, you mean?
Austin, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and Merrick Garland, honestly, was the worst, most abusive, insane, power-mad attorney general I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Yeah.
So...
Targeting moms and Catholics.
Whatever Matt Gaetz is, I understand he's a non-traditional pick for attorney general. I don't care. He cannot be worse than who Kamala would have put in there. He can't be worse. He can't be worse than who Biden put in there. It's only an improvement as far as I'm concerned.
John Fetterman is enjoying this whole thing.
I mean, I would describe it as God tier level trolling to just trigger a full-on China syndrome to own the libs in perpetuity.
He's very likable. But there is also something else.
Mm-hmm.
And Kamala tried to own this as an issue, and I feel like these people are, like, a lot of these people are 40 years old. These are very young people to be in these positions,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that is a good thing.
Oh, yeah, much better than Pelosi and Schumer and, everyone's too old there. Like, Biden was too old. Trump's on the old side, but you have, like, Vance who's young.
Yeah.
You have, Matt Gaetz who's young. Rubio's pretty young, too. Like, this is kind of like the dream team thing. I don't love all of his picks totally. And, I mean, I guess the jury's still out on some. I would say, like, the Matt Gaetz thing, I'm like, okay, let's see where this goes. But, I'm along for the ride on it. I'm there. Okay, we'll try it. It cannot be worse than Biden. Biden had the worst attorney general that we'll ever see in our lives, hopefully.
Oh, totally. Totally. By the way, here's your friend, your mentor, Whoopi Goldberg on Pete Hegseth.
That's not true. So is this the guy who's qualified to make decisions about the most powerful military in the world, who clearly does not know anything about the military?
You know, and also I feel insulted. I'm a morning TV host, and I've been here the longest.
Yes.
Where's my ambassadorship to Italy, Donald? Was it something I said?
Beyond what he's saying just about women, the scary part is the Secretary of Defense is the highest-ranking member of the federal cabinet, and there is a budget of $841 billion. It's the largest.
Yada yada. So anyway, Hegseth does have a thing. He is against women in combat, which I guarantee you most women are. Who the freak is going to say, yeah, we need to be in combat? We're not playing here. This is not Starship Troopers here, where it all is equal and pans out.
That's pretend world where women can be in combat roles. Women can serve in the armed forces to great effect. There are absolutely women war heroes, but you can't be in combat roles. It can't be a thing. Like G.I. Jane is pretend. Starship Troopers is pretend. Like this is not real life. And I think that, I think one of the things that I like about Hegseth that's not the factor you mentioned earlier, which is purely visual, that I think one of the things I really like about Pete Hegseth, and I didn't know that much about him because I'm not a huge Fox News watcher, but as I've learned more about him, is that he is really into our military readiness. Which I think is so important. That's one of the biggest things that concerns me right now is that we are running this woke military that loses all its war games, that is terrible. We have defunct old equipment and ships and planes and everything. We're giving away stuff to Ukraine that we can't afford to give away, that we're not replacing. I mean, look at the fact that we're doing the same thing to our military. Biden, in order to get a blip of improvement in gas prices, sold away our whole strategic petroleum reserve and didn't replace any of it.
Of course.
So, and that's what we're doing to our military. We're giving it away to people. We're not replacing it. We're not ready for a serious conflict. And this is a big problem. This is the biggest problem to me with us having our troops away in all these different places, doing all these different things, giving away our equipment with the Afghanistan stuff, etc. Every time we do this stuff, it weakens us. It's like death by 1,000 cuts. And this is, the national defense is the economic classic example of a public good, because it's for everyone. You cannot opt people out of the national defense. It's incredibly important. It's one of the only true legitimate government purposes that our federal government should have. It's one of the only things they should really be doing. We do not need them to look after education in every single state in the country. We do need them to run the national defense, because Massachusetts and Virginia can't have a separate national defense. It's not possible. It just will not work. So, and the fact that the Democrats have depleted it, think of the masks for COVID, that Obama used up all the masks on swine flu, all of our strategic reserves, and they were gone. This is what Democrats do to our government. This is what they do. They want the quick hit of a nice, fun giveaway. It's what they do writ large over the whole federal government. Spend. Forgive the student loans. Use up the masks. Sell the strategic petroleum reserve. Use up all our military equipment. Goodbye. And just for the quick hit of people liking them momentarily politically, none of them is willing to take a long view and say, for our long-term military readiness, we need X, Y, Z. For our long-term safety as a country, that's what the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is supposed to be for, in case we have a war and we need it. It's things like that. I want somebody in charge of the Department of Defense who has that philosophy. And, I'm sure he can probably learn the ropes of running the Department of Defense. It's probably good that he doesn't work for defense contractors. It's great that he served, obviously. He's clearly a super smart guy. He went to Princeton. He has a master's in public policy from Harvard. They can't seriously say he's not a good pick and a serious person. I mean, this coming from Whoopi, who wanted freaking Jill Biden to be the the Surgeon General.
Yes.
I mean, are we serious? She wanted Jill Biden to be the Surgeon General because she thought she was a real doctor. I mean, and she has a problem with Pete Hegseth? Unbelievable. But did you see the Scott Jennings clip where he went off on them for attacking Pete Hegseth too?
Do we have that? We have a bunch of Scott Jennings stuff.
I'll see if I can find
Winnie
it.
the Pooh. Let me see.
It might have been with Stelter, possibly. But yeah.
Anyone have confidence in the current leadership of the Pentagon and the way the defense situation has been operating for the last several years? I mean, from the Afghanistan pullout, which was an extreme debacle for which no one was held accountable. We've had spy balloons flying over the United States. We built a $300 million pier as a public relations stunt, which wound up killing an American service member. I'd say I've had just about enough of the so-called insiders running the Defense Department. I think we ought to give Pete Hegseth a chance because he's got two
insiders.
All the criticism of him is that he's not the expected Washington pick. And I'm just saying to you that the American people just voted against the expected Washington pick. So he's got 20 years in service, Afghanistan, Iraq, 2 Bronze Stars, Princeton, Harvard. Yeah, he's on TV, but so are the rest of us.
By the way, that list you just gave,
I think he ought
that
to
list
be
you just gave is really interesting because you highlighted a bunch of things that the civilian leadership of the country decided on. In the military, their job was just to execute. They execute.
How did it go?
I'm just saying.
How did it go?
In terms of the decision making, you're assigning decision making responsibility to the military over things that civilians are responsible for.
So you make a good point.
That is really weak sauce, Abby. Jesus.
Civilian leadership made decisions, and then the people they put in charge of the Pentagon carried it out. And it was all pretty much a disaster. So now we have a new president who I think got elected in part because of some of those disasters, and he's going to put in some of the non-insiders in charge of not just this agency, but a bunch of them. Now, look, they've got to perform. They've got to perform. I mean, we've got 53 U.S. senators that are Republicans, and Pete Hegseth, he's an American hero. The man won 2 Bronze Stars for his service, and he's been a champion for veterans. He's going to have to go up there just like everybody else and prove his knowledge of how to do this job. He's not immune from that, but we ought to give this man a chance, in my opinion.
Now, let the record show, red flag, Alice, Hegseth was nominated to the VA guy, and they withdrew his nomination. So,
under the previous Trump administration?
They want to have
yes.
Well, maybe Trump's going to do his
confidence in the
recess
current
appointments this time. But I think the attitude to Trump and to his picks has changed. Don't you? Don't you think there's been a vibe shift since 2016?
I think that there has been I'm sure they took it all badly in 2016 as well. But I think that since Trump ran up the score in this election, I think there has been almost, for part of the left that was energized last time, there's been indifference.
Well, and he ran up the score in this election, but until mid-2020, he also ran up the score in his presidency. He had a great 3/4 of a presidency.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean?
90 million people weren't receiving, or believing that messaging. They were believing what they were seeing out there that,
Well, yeah, but compared to what they're seeing now, I think it looks a lot rosier in retrospect, doesn't it?
Like I said, I think there was so much panic. And I also think that, yes, I think that a lot of the fears and anxieties were ameliorated by the last 4 years. And Americans saw this administration, the Biden administration, which is the worst that has ever been. They saw these people, these identity hires. They saw the incompetence, and they saw stuff get more expensive, and then they got yelled at for noticing stuff got more expensive, then gaslit, etc. I think the Biden administration personally offended a lot of people to the extent where Trump really couldn't do that, other than the fact that you're ticked off that idiots were in the Capitol building on January 6th.
Well, I was ticked off idiots were in the Capitol building on January 6th, but I was also ticked off that a complete freak show ran the entire Biden presidency for 4 years. And that freak show also ran Kamala's campaign, and other people saw it. An incompetent freak show. It's one thing if you're Sam Brinton and Rachel Levine and you're doing like a bang-up job.
Well, yeah.
But they did...
And then actually...
The country fell apart, and there's topless trans people running around on the White House lawn. Like, stop it.
And gay congressional staffers having anal sex on video.
Yeah.
And I do think that, Karine Jean-Pierre was a daily middle finger to normalcy. her stupid hair, her stupid weird
The weird clothing choices.
Prince Purple Rain outfits that she would have. It made no. She was so all about her,
right?
And she was incompetent, and it was just such.
No, it was like it was the worst Secretary of Defense, who, by the way, disappeared for like a month without telling anyone. The worst Secretary of Transportation, who also disappeared without telling anyone. The worst Attorney General, the worst press secretary.
And by the way, their Secretary of Transportation was their smartest guy, but he just still felt entitled because of new progressive cultural norms.
Right.
He felt entitled to
not show up to work.
Yeah, and like have and act surprised at you for having a problem with that. Yeah. While the ports are there's armadas of ships waiting to get into the ports. Amazing. And then when it's time for him to go to work, he talks about the racist roads. Oh my God, what were they freaking thinking?
But yeah, it was like a top to bottom completely malicious incompetence. Mm-hmm. And that's why, like, you say Michael Graham is all upset about all this and like freaking out. I can't freak out. If we survive the Biden presidency, we can survive anything, right? Like, nothing Trump is going to do could be worse than that huge mess with, like, Hunter and his business dealings, quote, selling art, quote unquote. I mean, it's an embarrassment to our country that presidency happened.
Well, totally.
It's worse than Carter.
Hunter's cocaine was at the White House, and they couldn't even figure that out, or they decided not to.
I mean, but that's like... It's worse than Carter, and it's worse than Carter, not because Carter was great, which he obviously wasn't, but Carter, I guess, I mean, like, my impression of him anyway is that he's sort of like a well-meaning dope who just, like, couldn't president.
I don't know if dope was the word. He was milquetoast.
Yeah, so, but, like, Biden was corrupt and malicious and hated Americans, has no respect for the office, no respect for other people, was selling influence through his family,
yep.
was
the Border Patrol,
dragging in all the worst people to run an utterly incompetent administration because he couldn't give two bleeps about the American people or anything they're going through. Yes. Like, it's so that's like why this election was lost. Like, I mean, Kamala sucks, obviously. Like, I mean, even selecting Kamala is a middle finger to the American people. So, but she was obviously set up to fail by the fact that she had to defend the most indefensible administration we've ever seen in this country.
Well, she was set up to fail because they wouldn't let her defend it.
Well,
they wouldn't let her condemn it.
Right. But so, you know, she had to pretend that this was going great. And that's like the worst part of the whole Biden thing is that they also, on top of all of that, tried to tell us that this was like the best, most historic, most accomplished, most incredible democracy-saving presidency with the absolute most decent, wonderful, incredible, selfless people that they had ever seen in their life. It was just like too much to take. It's really like, we know Washington, D.C. sucks, but like, you guys?
You can get entire administrations who would never allow the president to call something a state's legislation, not only Jim Crow, but Jim Eagle. Which is amazing, because it's really not about birds, but that's fine.
Like, not taking reporter questions, hiding the fact that he very clearly has big problems. I mean, the whole thing, top to bottom. Like, if we're going to look back on this era of American history and be like, what the were people thinking? Mm-hmm. What were people possibly thinking to buy this for 1 second? It's incredible. Anyway, that's my rant of the day, I guess, because I was like, I can't take anybody seriously.
Said Biden was chilling with Don today, looked happy. He was happy. He was thrilled. He absolutely voted for Trump, and he was thrilled to have him there. He was so happy today. You're right. Tommy says that was Kamala's cook. I don't think so, man. She is too, like, She's a wine person. There's no doubt about that.
I think so.
Biden was a tremendous physical stunt man. Have you ever seen anyone else trip upstairs? I know. That was incredible.
By the way, did you see the thing with Brian Johnson?
Brian Johnson.
He's that like Silicon Valley guy who decided that he's like going to never age. So he follows like this super intensive regimen.
Does this involve the blood of children?
He tried that, but it didn't work well for him. He doesn't believe in that, but he like anyway, he was hanging out with RFK Jr. and tweeting out "Make America Healthy Again." And they apparently, this is what he said. Let me go back to the tweet because I was looking at this. He said, "Make America Healthy Again." And somebody said, "Did you guys do some shots of oil?" He said, "We worked out, ate nutty pudding, and completed biological age tests." Someone said, "Solid first date." But yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's really interesting because he's basically turned himself into like a human science experiment. He like he measures his you know, like his biological
the chat is very
age
funny, by the
and
way.
all
I'm
that
just going
stuff.
through the chat. I'm just sorry.
Okay, yeah, look through the chat. But anyway,
Very funny.
I think it's really interesting. I do wonder because I think a lot of this happened in Trump's first term too. I do wonder if Trump and Elon are going to have a falling out.
I assume that everybody will. I mean, it's just the natural course of things. You know, you're going to have the publicity shot of Vivek and Elon, etc. And I mean, there's too many things at play. There's a lot of balls in the air to juggle at this moment. And I don't think the Doge is not going to be very long, and they'll probably lose interest. But that doesn't necessarily matter because the point is not for it to be a long-term campaign. The point is to be going in that direction and have the red laser, the laser scope, making its way metaphorically through these big bureaucratic. What do people work in? Cubicles, cubicles, and finding a way to either. I think they'll push a lot of them to take early retirement, et cetera, et cetera. I think even the fact that you're doing it, making it sound like a thing, is good and will influence people. Especially since Trump scares the holy bleep out of the establishment class.
Well, yeah. Well, listen to this. So, because Charles Cook tweeted this out, and I thought this was so interesting. The New York Times did a big focus group asking people like who they voted for and why and stuff. And a lot of people have pointed out that in the exit polling and favorability, J.D. Vance was the only person on either ticket who had positive favorability of all four of them.
Including Tim?
Yep.
Walz?
Tim Walz, Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, and J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance was the only one with positive favorability, which is fascinating because he had the worst favorability going into this.
Oh, totally.
Mind your own damn business.
So, but listen to this, because this is from this New York Times focus group. Abigail, 23, from Virginia, says, "I can't believe it, but I did end up voting for Donald Trump. I made that decision when I saw J.D. Vance's interview with the New York Times. He's the future of the Republican Party. I'm voting for Vance more than I am for Trump."
Here we go.
George, 21, in Georgia, says, "I voted for Donald Trump. Like Abigail, I was really impressed with J.D. Vance, especially during the VP debate." McLean, 25, in D.C., says, "I shocked myself and voted for Trump. No one tell my family. I was so impressed by J.D. Vance, the way he carried himself and how normal he appeared. I think I became radicalized on the men and women's sports issue. The ad that said Kamala represents they, them, Trump represents you was so compelling. While Trump is deranged, he represented normalcy somehow to me." Pierce, 26, in North Carolina, says, "I voted for Donald Trump. I decided after Kamala went on Call Her Daddy." That was $100,000 wasted. "I voted for Trump. I made the decision after he appeared on Rogan. He just seemed more normal than the other side."
Agreed.
So it was, I think that was part of the problem for them is Trump and Vance did a full court press just to talk to people and be normal. They didn't make a big show out of calling people weird, but they just tried to be normal people with normal positions. And I mean, the knives are still out for Seth Moulton, by the way, who said like the most normal thing you can possibly say, which is, "I have daughters and I don't want them playing sports against anyone who was ever a boy." So they have continued to like excommunicate him. The Salem Democratic Party has denounced him, and they said they're finding him a primary opponent. I think we said that on the last show. Yeah, Tufts said they're no longer sending him any interns from their poli-sci department. They're which isn't going to matter soon because their endowments are going to be taxed now, which is so exciting. But, you know, you cannot force people to have an opinion by silencing them. And, like, you know, the dam already broke with Republicans. Republicans for a long time, and I mean, that's down to Donald Trump, obviously. Republicans for a long time were afraid to say anything that might be perceived as, like, racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic. They were afraid of getting called bigoted, right? And Donald Trump sort of, like, wore out that muscle for the Democrats. Like, nobody, like, takes it seriously anymore. You can't,
totally
it has
true.
no power over
Totally true.
anybody who's remotely right-wing anymore. Nobody's scared of it anymore. But I think what Seth Moulton and John Fetterman represent, though, is that, and some other people who are trying to break with Democrats on these issues, I think for purely self-serving reasons, not because they care one way or the other particularly, but I think if they also have had that, like, switch turned where they're like, oh, I can just say this, like, they can't actually do anything to me except yell and scream about it, and, like, they have no power over me, you know, I think they're screwed with some of these policies that they pursue, because their entire premise with the trans movement and some of this stuff, the men and girls sports kind of things, it rests on having no dissent. Because anybody can see the problem. So if you allow people to dissent, then the dam breaks and it all falls apart.
Right.
That's why they're going so hard for Moulton, because they know that if it becomes obvious to other Democrats that you can say the obvious
think
thing.
That what they're saying has no resonance. The amplifier is broken now.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, there was this chick I was watching who said, like, I know you didn't vote for Trump because of the price of eggs. I know it's because you didn't vote for this guy who's a rapist, who's a misogynist, who's this and that, who said grab him by the feet. You didn't do that for eggs. I know you did it because she's black and you couldn't do it. I know.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, you're seeing the remnants that are left on these cable
Right.
shows, the pundits. They're still going there, and there is completely diminished, if not negated, returns. That's got no purchase anymore,
right,
in a large scale, and it's like showing in the numbers why people are not watching these panels anymore, because you've got people like Scott Jennings and Gdarsky before they've 86 Tim. People are not.
Or
That's
Michael
over.
Singleton,
That's-
when he
that-
said,
yes,
when
exactly.
I am not going to sit here and listen to
Yes.
transphobia. They have to scream over
That's
you
over.
because
All
if
they've
you
got,
can
that
talk.
is the day of victimhood and all this, this having huge opportunity rewards for just this land basting with racism, sexism, unknown evils. Trump won too many votes this time. So what's CNN going to call the country?
Yeah.
CNN going to say all you MFers are the values of these companies are in the toilet, in the cellar. At the same time, people are not going to Joe Rogan for their mainstream news. So
Right.
good effing luck. Theo Vaughn, you guys in the chat were talking about Theo Vaughn. Theo Vaughn is more influential than every show on CNN.
It's funny because it's true.
It is true. It's because he's legit. You don't know what the freak is going on in the guy's. Well, actually, you know way too much that's going on in his head. But you don't know, like, he is an honest broker.
Well, and they're all mad about it, but they're the ones who ceded that power and
Yes.
left that Wild West vacuum for other things to fill in
Right.
by being dishonest,
Totally.
by being untrustworthy, by being naked partisans.
Right.
Right? Like, so that's what left this hole, and they're mad that it got filled by Rogan and Theo Vaughn and whoever.
Right.
But that's because they abdicated their responsibility to report things
Exactly.
accurately to the American people.
And
So
people
are going to go to something that they perceive as more real, even if, Rogan might be wrong about some things, right?
And the people who CNN deigned to be too fringe, who deigned to that they were too, they didn't have reputations, they weren't credentialed enough, etc. Those people found a home with Rogan, with Theo Vaughn, with the Weinstein brothers, with even years ago Ben Shapiro, etc. And something happened there where the Rogans of the world said, "Wait a second, is this all an effing lie? Is it possible that the CNN thing, it's all bull?" And that grew and grew and grew and grew. And then COVID happened, and the media institutions, turned on the Rogans and roasted him, demanded that he be silenced, etc., because he was simply asking questions like he always did. And he said, "F you, people." And like the drubbing he gave to that CNN guy, Sanjay Gupta, was it Sanjay?
Yeah.
Whoever he had in, was perfect. He not only did he beat him, but he broke him and corrected him. All right, we got to do shot, bro.
All right. A big shot, it looked like. Tom, you said some of the messages looked long.
There's a couple.
Everybody's on notice. If you're going to leave long ones, they have to be good.
There's a couple of 2-minute ones there. But we don't have time to screen them. So if they suck, it's at a minute 59 that I realize. But some are very good.
Okay.
So one never knows. That is the risk reward. We look at sometime to see, does everybody bail at this point, or is everybody just forward to this point?
I also second Leslie having her own podcast. She is very articulate, very well educated, well versed on a lot of subjects, and I think that her having a 20 to 30 minute podcast, like Mick does, like I used to have, would be very well received and would get a lot of listeners. So I think she should do it.
I think she should too. This is very Steve from Gloucester. Charm offensive. Just when you think he's zigging, he's zagging. But I'm all for it too. Leslie is very opinionated, very articulate. She's got a great voice, Alice. One of the sexy voices on the earth. Let's go.
Okay, Tom, I'm sitting in the car across the street from the North Shore Bank in Saugus.
Okay.
At Kelly's.
All right.
That's where the Russo's candy and ice cream shop used to be, and then it became the Krispy Kreme.
Ooh,
just for the All You Can Eat podcast.
Gotcha.
Folks. Now, I was thinking about that guy in Melrose, the teacher, who wished a lot of evil on people with PTSD. I've mentioned this before, but my grandfather was in the Pacific Theater in World War II, and when he came back, he treated his post-traumatic stress with alcohol. And, of course, he took things out on my grandmother, my mom, and my uncles. My grandmother divorced him when my mom was 11, I think, and he never spoke to them again.
Wow.
So, that generational trauma was passed down to us, all of my siblings and myself and my cousins, and it's really prevalent. And it comes out in different ways. But I got to say, to wish that kind of evil on someone because you can't handle the loss of an election is really weak.
Yes.
That shows your character. You're just a weak, feckless, thin, piss gruel person. And I would never wish PTSD on anybody because it also happens after a traumatic event to anybody. What a pissant that guy is.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would wish for him to choke on his Thanksgiving dinner, but not until he's dead, until he nearly passes out, and then they dislodge it, and then all of a sudden the air goes in, and then he wakes up. But of course, that won't wake anybody up from their delusion.
Oh, yeah. Well said. I actually have a Thanksgiving gripe. I don't know if I should save it for tomorrow. There's this big, long message I saw on Facebook from somebody saying, I just want to put it out there that if you don't have somebody to eat on Thanksgiving, you're officially invited over to my house. Nobody should be alone on Thanksgiving. And I know it's like...
I need to do an all-you-can-eat podcast with you because I have some Thanksgiving takes to offer as well.
Okay.
So let's save that for the all-you-can-eat podcast.
But it's not really about food. It's about, like... I am not pleased with...
It's the, being a good person
No,
thing.
it's just so quaint, and you know what? Come on over. We'll pull up a chair for you. And you can
Friendsgiving.
You can have a bit of turkey and stuffing with us, and then nobody should be alone on Thanksgiving, and we'll go watch the football game. part of me just wants a nuclear bomb to hit.
Don't
I don't
you
know.
think it comes from sort of the same place as the people who are posting right now that they're a safe space and an LGBTQ ally and don't tell anyone that you know any trans people? Because they're starring in a movie in their head where they're this big hero and they just want everybody else to know that they're the star of this movie. It's like the lady around here who did a bake sale to raise money for the Ukraine war at the beginning of that whole thing. And then in like a later internet argument about something completely unrelated, she said, "Don't you realize that I'm the person who had a bake sale for Ukraine? Like, obviously I'm a good person."
Right, of course.
Like, just incredible.
Hi, Habibis.
Hey, Leslie.
So Trump nominated Matt Gaetz as Attorney General, and I have a theory that that's a head fake.
Ooh.
That Trump is doing a rope-a-dope with Gaetz so that all of his other nominees get pushed through and confirmed, and Trump sacrifices Gaetz because it'll probably be easy to not get him confirmed. And then Trump can say, okay, here you go. See, we didn't force through everybody. And then he's going to put in a monster.
Ooh.
That's my theory. Love you. Bye.
Yeah, the left is also thinking that there's an investigation that's coming out on Gaetz in a couple days about him being with a 17-year-old. And so this gave Gaetz a reason to resign. So the congressional investigation can't continue because it's not in their purview anymore. See what's happening there?
Hi, Steve from Merrimack.
Hey, Steve.
Tom, I'm 5 years older than you are, and I can identify with your sentiments about, basically being the oldest person in the room.
Yes.
Among a bunch of young people the other day. So my best friend outside of Mrs. Steve is my friend Taryn, who's 9 years younger than I am. And we'll be talking sometime, and I'll go, hey, do you remember that thing from like 1991? And she'll go, yeah, I was in 6th grade. And I immediately begin to feel the liver spots bursting on my hands. But that conundrum reminded me of a funny interaction I saw. I think it was on Bill Maher's show from a few years ago when Meghan McCain was a panelist and Paul Begala was a panelist. And, Meghan said something really silly like, oh, I don't know about that. I wasn't even born yet.
Oh, come on, Meghan.
And Paul Begala goes, yeah, well, I wasn't born during the French Revolution, but I know about that.
Right.
And it just made Meghan look really stupid, which is probably the way she should look. Anyway, but it is tough being the oldest person in the room, and especially seeing the aimlessness in some of these people, as you guys were describing. Anyway, thank you.
Well, totally true. And when there's a consensus that you're out of it, but they're dumb, it's like you can just tell that because I know about Watergate doesn't make me old, because it happened in 73. I was born in 73. I just subsequently learned about it. Like you can. Oh, Watergate? What are you, my grandfather? Like, yeah, I don't know. It's a thing that happened. You never have to apologize for knowing more stuff than necessary. This is my feeling.
Hey, Tom, I saw that Trump nominated the gorgeous, totally lovely Kristi Noem to be the Secretary of Homeland Security. It goes without saying, what a wonderful pick that was. Oh, she's a stunner.
She is a good-looking lady.
This is a really good-looking cabinet on average, I would say.
Yeah, the only thing is about that is that, she was a governor, so she is a governor, whatever. But it's a huge job. It's a job that's really just too big for everybody. It was a reaction to 9/11, never should have been a thing.
By the way, have you seen the rumors that they're pushing DeSantis to pick Lara Trump to replace Rubio in the Senate?
No, but that would make sense. I've seen that in Hulk Hogan, as a matter of fact.
Maybe DeSantis can find somebody a little more like policy-minded. I know I'm biased towards like wonky, nerdy people, but
this might be a first. This is Rudy.
Okay.
Hey, Tom.
Hey.
It's Rudy.
Hey, Rudy.
Left you a message election night.
How's it going?
I do listen to the Bourbon Barrel.
Oh, thanks, brother.
I can't listen to Connecticut whiners anymore. They all whine about what's wrong, but they don't do anything. All they do is shovel conspiracy theories. I'd much rather deal with conservatives from Massachusetts that actually have fight, like Tim and Canton.
Here.
So, just
although I love my Connecticut conservatives as well, but here.
Let the record show.
But you know,
yes,
election night had nothing to do with you.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm listening to Burn Barrel and Jimmy Fallon. I'm a podcast listener now.
That's great.
I'm done with all this stuff. Can't deal with the military-occupied United States, like Christine says, and mRNA through 5G, conspiracy theory, chemtrails, like my buddy says. But Alice is right. The main reason I'm calling tonight. Trump needs to stop taking reps from the House of Representatives.
Yep.
He's going after Matt Gaetz to be AG. They haven't secured the House, and right now there's 2 reps that are going to face special election. And if you think the Democrats aren't going to steal New York,
yeah, New York's
that's crazy. Mm-hmm. We'll handle Florida. We'll replace Matt Gaetz with a Republican. But Trump needs to wake up. It seems deliberate. We don't have the House secured. And Alice was right. And that's all I'm pointing out. You have some great podcasts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm waiting for you and Alice to flee Massachusetts because your taxes are about to go up without federal aid for the immigrants.
Yeah.
Florida's calling you.
Yeah.
We'll syndicate the Tom Shattuck Show, and I'll be back on the radio.
Nice.
Keep it up, guys. Great job.
Thank you, Rudy. Yeah,
Your
Rudy.
lips to God's ears, as they say.
Absolutely, Rudy. Please, leave more messages. It's great to have you. Great to have you. Absolutely. And you're right about that. If we can escape Massachusetts,
Yeah, unfortunately, we're trapped in our lead house now, so we have to live here until we're dead, pretty much. So.
Essentially. I mean, if there's a nuclear strike, then that would be merciful. But other than that, it's a little bit tough. There's no doubt about that.
Hello, Morgan here.
Hey, Morgan.
Hey, Morgan.
Matt Gaetz is an excellent pick. I would love to debate you on this topic, Tom.
Yes.
Because, well, I mean, you already kind of told me you didn't like it. But you shouldn't judge people just because, like, someone gets caught on camera, you maybe doing some blow and maybe banging a couple models while riding a jet ski with a big old American flag attached to it. Well, you know.
That would not come from a place of consternation for me. That would be sheer jealousy if they were over 18 and I wasn't married, of course. But yeah, I would have no problem. I get the feeling that him and Cowler, who's the guy in the wheelchair who went out last year?
Cawthorn?
I get the feeling him and Cawthorn.
I bet you he's going to get a friggin' appointment. He checks the good-looking box, which seems to be one of Trump's primary motivating factors. Yeah.
Absolutely. I've got no problem with any of that stuff, really. My problem is that, like, why do we need an internecine war? Is it internecine? Does that word work at all?
Yeah. I don't.
It means inter-party, right?
Internecine war. But I don't know how to say it necessarily.
Right, like within the Republican Party to start out things. You're just going to give like the left media like a free. They're going to have the popcorn emojis left and right. It's like, come on, man.
Eagle, a bald eagle on his shoulder, just cruising. That's not necessarily a bad dude. All right.
I don't think he's necessarily a bad dude.
If you get this before it, we can debate.
Yeah.
All right. Peace.
He's a very non-traditional pick.
Thank you, Morgan.
And he's a pick guaranteed to piss off a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And he takes another person from the House of Representatives. Matt Gaetz is just one of those people that people love to hate.
Yeah. He's like if the other side picked Swalwell. I mean, people would be, oh my goodness. I
mean, maybe, and I think that's part of it.
Right.
They call him Little Marco.
Not bad. I've been working on my Trump again, by the way. They call her Lying Alice.
They call him Lying Tom.
No. Mine is hitting. Mine is finally hitting after all these years.
Hey, Tom and Alice.
Hey, Charlie.
I just want to say, Tom, I heard that, read today that a friend, VB, got the axe. I'm not sure if you talked about it or not, but if you could keep us informed, I'll have him on when he gets a new gig so we can kind of find him. I was always a VB fan. He was my second favorite producer of any talk radio show. There was a Great and Powerful Somebody that I used to like on 96.9. But anyways, if you talk to him, tell him that he's still got a lot of fans. We still wish him well. And hopefully he does okay. And when he gets a new gig, just let us know. Thanks.
Thank you, Charlie. Yeah, I talked to him yesterday. He was a typical radio whacking. He worked for iHeart, which is a huge radio company. And they, the new management came in, and just like with me and Michael Graham said, by the way, you guys are sounding great. Next year seems very exciting. And then, like, an hour later, he was whacked. That's how they do it.
Friggin' terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, VB deserves better, definitely. Remember, we used to watch him on Fox 25 in the mornings when I would visit your house and sometimes make you breakfast, and we would watch that in the mornings.
You made me breakfast in Brighton? Really?
Yeah.
Wow, what a life I had. But yeah, I will have him on. Obviously, I'll have him on definitely. And we'll see what happens with him. One of the great guys. He's a great friend and great guys in the business. And VB on Howie Carr. If you can just go back 25, almost 30 years now to listen to and remember how VB was on the Howie Carr show. He was my inspiration for wanting to be a producer. There's no doubt about that. He was so funny. The stuff that he said back then would get him bleep canned so quickly now. He was freaking... And it's funny because he's so tempered now as a host.
Oh, yeah.
And like VB in the middle when he was
mellowed
here.
In his old
Oh,
age.
man. Back then he was freaking forbidden. How he used to have to dump stuff he said all the time.
Maybe? I mean... So, obviously, I hope he can find another, great gig with a great salary and great health insurance and all great things. But I mean, there could totally be a world for him in podcasting or TikTok. I definitely think he should do, while he's looking for that next great big, quote unquote real job, he should definitely do whatever online. And obviously,
I told him
the second he has anything going on, we'll tell you guys for sure.
Yeah, and I think he's he's gonna hit the ground running. I think he's gonna do stuff immediately. He doesn't know how to do a lot of that stuff. But
if we can do it, I'm sure VB can figure it out.
That is fair to say. Yeah. By the way, follow me on TikTok if you're not there. Follow us on TikTok. I think I'm Thomas Wynn Shattuck on TikTok. And if you're into TikTok...
I gotta get going, by the way, my friend.
Oh, dang, sorry.
Thank you so much for listening, everybody. We appreciate it so much. It was really fun tonight. Nice long chat. Great messages from everyone. We appreciate you. If you want to leave those, you go to burnbarrelpodcast.com. There's also links to different places to listen. Tom's been getting the videos up on YouTube. We're on Rumble. There's Spotify. There's Apple Podcasts. Wherever you like to listen, just leave a review and all that. If for some reason you want to pay us, you can do that at patreon.com/burnbarrel.